Probably the most common question we get is how do you choose what is computer animated in a movie like this? The majority of our movies are drawn. They're drawn by pencil. So how do you then choose those things that are computer animated?
Usually they're complex things. They're things that involve many moving things on screen. They involve a lot of textures, a lot of detail, or they're things that would just be difficult to draw repeatedly.
The Hun charge was an element that was very much driven by the directors.
When we first started on envisioning what the Hun charge would be, it was just story sketches, and it was just, they literally were little dots on a piece of paper because a lot of the shots were so wide that the artists would just sketch in these little dots, and we thought, how are we going to actually achieve something like this? And it wasn't until I saw Lion King, that was around the same time, and they had used the digital animation so successfully for the wildebeest stampede. And that's when we turned it over to the CG guys, Eric Guaglione and his group, and they masterfully came up with a lot of great ideas.
It's not so much the idea of you take 1,000 of these things and you just run them downhill and see what happens. You really need to be able to go in. If the director says, I want that one right there out of those 2,000, I want him to be moved up the hill and I want him to raise the flag right then we had to have the ability to do that. And that went down to the greatest level of detail to create these scenes literally with armies that we could have control of every single character out there.
Most of what we did for animation individually was to animate horses running. Sandra Gronevelt did most of the horse animation.
I started basically building a horse and testing out how the bones would work and how the mechanics work of a horse. And I'd go to like the Magic Kingdom and watch the Clydesdales walk. I built a kind of a stand-in model made out of sculpted clay, and that helped me work through the process of figuring out how this one-dimensional drawing would turn into a three-dimensional object.
And then we animated Huns on top of those horses individually. We had basically two different Hun types, Chen and Yi, and we ended up giving them different hats, different facial hair features, different expressions, different weapons, different types of clothing. Just for academic sake, I think we calculated it would be something like 60,000 different Hun types that we could have based upon all the different combinations of things we could put on there.
The process of coming up with a particular scene of the Hun charge was a little interesting in itself, because we'd start with the story sketch, which was the original inspiration, and that would tell us basically what the camera angle is and kind of the excitement of the moment for the scene. Then we go to layout department, and most of our backgrounds were just, you know, really easy, simple snow planes and that sort of thing. And we'd add a character level that layout would draw, but it would be a static drawing. We'd turn that over to the CG animators, and they would have to make that scene come alive.
Once we got the drawing of the background from layout, we would build what's called a terrain, just basically a three-dimensional surface that these Huns would run down. Then we would create a simulation. You describe in a program how many Huns are going to be in the scene, which direction they'll be running. The simulation basically just made sure that the horses ran down the hill and the Huns were active on their backs and that they weren't passing through one another. Once we had that done, we'd show the directors a rough pass.
Barry and I look at the scenes, and what we look for is, does it really capture the moment, the energy of the scene? And it's got to look like chaos as much as possible. Through the audience's eye, Mulan is seeing the same thing. And that's the great thing about the Hun charge. We had to fiddle with all these different behaviors and different hats, and you get so specific with those things, but when it's all done at the end of the day and we see the shot, all you feel is scared for Mulan.
Get down to business to defeat the Huns.
Disney Animation has a tradition of using music to help tell their story. Music just lends itself to heightened storytelling. It moves the plot forward, it gives you heightened emotion, and it sort of just folds the movie into a whole package. So from the very beginning, as we started to outline our movie, we kept thinking music, music, music. So you start and you have a rough outline of the movie up, and you start sort of what we call spotting songs.
We looked at the beats of the story, all of the events of the story, and we thought, at what moments, what are the emotional high and low points that would really benefit from a song? It's crucial to have the storytelling continue in a song. Otherwise, the story turns idle, I think the audience gets bored, and really it's not a success.
Defining the moment in story usually comes first. Chris Williams did some great boards for the training sequence, I'll Make a Man Out of You. Once he really nailed the progression of what Mulan went through emotionally and what the other troops went through because of her, how they grew and how they succeeded due to her example, then we really had a moment or a scene we could write a song about.
And then we bring in our lyricist and our song composer, and we talk about it. For Mulan, we asked David Zippel to be our lyricist and Matthew Wilder to be our song composer.
Basically what we did was we would sit down with each assignment and sort of dissect what each song was supposed to accomplish. And sometimes he would throw out a melodic idea, sometimes I would throw out a lyric or a title. And we would sort of sit in a room together and shape each song.
Once you have the first draft of the song written, we do a rough draft of it, a demo, and we cut it to the picture. We make sure, are we hitting the right words with the right visuals?
Wait and see when we're through. Boys will gladly go to war for you. With good fortune and a great hairdo, you'll bring honor to us all.
We would try certain moments that worked and almost immediately, and other moments that didn't work. There's one situation in which we had written a piece for Mushu before Eddie Murphy came onto the film, and the piece that we had written succeeded beautifully for the character, but when Eddie came on, the character changed and the dynamic changed, and therefore it made the piece unfortunately obsolete. We all loved it, but it just didn't work in context with what Eddie was bringing to the character. So it's an ongoing evolutionary process in which it's not over till it's over.
Sweet cakes never say surrender. I can make you a contender. Get you through this gender bender. Keep 'em guessing.
So once we've matched the demo to picture and we're really happy with it, then we start talking about specifics. In I'll Make a Man Out of You, Shang on one of the lyrics gets hit in the stomach with the stick. When Donny Osmond sang the song, he actually pretended he was being hit.
You can bet before we're through.
You talk about what you want. Do the directors hear a specific instrument? Do they want the orchestration to hit a specific word? And then we get to the record day. You have a 65-piece orchestra. In the song Reflection, you have Lea Salonga, who has a beautiful voice, in there singing to the orchestra, and chills run up and down your spine. And so everything starts to come together. You get the final lyrics, the final voice, the final orchestra, and that song's done. And then you move on to tackle another one.